In the heart of Burgundy, France, a special soul was born. Jeanne-Françoise Frémyot, whom we now know as Saint Jane Frances de Chantal, came into the world on January 23, 1572. She was born into a noble family in the city of Dijon. Her father, Bénigne Frémyot, was the president of the Parliament of Burgundy. He was a man of great integrity and deep faith. Jane Frances was blessed with a comfortable life from her very beginning. She had all the advantages that came with her family's high social standing. But from a young age, it was clear that her heart was set on something much greater than worldly riches or status. Her spirit was gentle, and her mind was bright. Tragedy touched her life when she was just a little girl. Her beloved mother, Marguerite de Bourbilly, passed away when Jane was only 18 months old. This left a void in the family, but her father stepped in with incredible love and dedication. He took on the role of both father and mother, ensuring his children were raised with strong Catholic values. He taught Jane Frances to read and write, which was not always common for girls at that time. He nurtured her faith, teaching her prayers and stories of the saints. This early loss, though painful, planted a seed of resilience in her young heart, teaching her to lean on God's love in times of sadness and uncertainty. Growing up under her father's care, Jane Frances blossomed into a remarkable young woman. She was known not only for her beauty and grace, but also for her firm convictions. Even as a child, she showed a deep understanding of her faith. There is a story that when a Calvinist visitor once tried to tell her that the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist was not true, young Jane stood her ground. She politely but firmly defended the teachings of the Church. This early display of courage showed the strength of character that would define her entire life. Her father's guidance helped shape her into a person who was both kind and strong, ready for the path God had planned. Her father knew it was important to find a good husband for his daughter. He wanted someone who would share their family's values and devotion to God. When Jane Frances was 20 years old, he arranged for her to marry the Baron de Chantal, Christophe de Rabutin. He was a brave soldier and a good man. Jane accepted her father's wishes, trusting in God's plan for her life. She prepared to leave her childhood home in Dijon to start a new chapter. This was the next step in her journey, a step that would lead her to become a wife, a mother, and eventually a saint who would inspire countless others with her unwavering faith and love. Jane Frances's marriage to Baron de Chantal was a very happy one. They moved to his family's estate, the Castle of Bourbilly. There, she fully embraced her new role as the Baroness. She managed the large household with incredible skill and grace. She was not just a manager, but a true mother to everyone who lived and worked there. She made sure all the servants were treated with kindness and respect. Her days were filled with overseeing the estate, but she always made time for prayer. Her faith was the center of her life, guiding every decision she made. She turned the castle into a place of order, peace, and Christian charity, where everyone felt cared for and valued. Soon the castle was filled with the joy of children. Jane and Christophe were blessed with 6 children, though 2 sadly died in infancy. She was a deeply loving and attentive mother to her son, Celse Bénigne, and her 3 daughters, Marie-Aimée, Françoise, and Charlotte. She poured her heart into raising them in the faith. She taught them their prayers and told them stories from the Bible. She wanted them to know God's love just as she did. Her home was a little church, a place where faith was lived out every single day. She balanced her duties as a baroness with her vocation as a mother, showing that a life of holiness could be found in the ordinary tasks of family life. Jane Frances was known far and wide for her incredible charity. She had a special heart for the poor and the sick in her community. Every day she would personally distribute food, clothing, and medicine to those in need. She didn't just send her servants to do the work, she went herself. She would visit the sick in their humble homes, cleaning their wounds and offering them comfort. She saw the face of Jesus in every person she met, especially those who were suffering. Her generosity was not just about giving material things, it was about giving her time, her compassion, and her love. She showed everyone what it meant to live the gospel message of caring for the least among us. Her deep spiritual life was the source of all her good works. Even with a busy household to run and children to raise, she always found time for God. She attended Mass as often as she could and spent long periods in quiet prayer. Her husband, the Baron, deeply admired her piety and supported her completely. He was often away for his duties at the royal court or in battle, but he trusted her to manage everything at home. Their marriage was a partnership built on mutual respect and a shared love for God. For almost 9 years, Jane Frances lived a life full of joy, purpose, and devotion as a wife, mother, and servant to the poor. The happy life that Jane Frances had built came to a sudden and tragic end. In 1601, her beloved husband, Christophe, was accidentally shot and killed during a hunting trip with a friend. The news was devastating. In an instant, her world was shattered. The man she loved, the father of her children, was gone forever. The grief was almost too much to bear. At just 28 years old, she was a widow with 4 young children to raise on her own. The castle that had been a place of so much joy was now filled with overwhelming sorrow. Her heart was broken, but even in this dark moment, her faith, though tested, remained her anchor. The pain of her loss was immense. She mourned her husband deeply, feeling lost and alone. The friend who had accidentally caused the accident was filled with remorse, and Jane, in an incredible act of Christian forgiveness, made sure to comfort him. She even became the godmother to his child, showing that her heart was free from bitterness and anger. This act of mercy was a powerful testament to her deep faith. She knew that holding on to resentment would only add to her suffering. Instead, she chose the difficult path of forgiveness, a path that would ultimately lead her closer to God and bring peace to her wounded soul. In the depths of her grief, Jane Frances made a solemn promise to God. She made a vow of perpetual chastity, dedicating her life completely to Him. She felt a deep calling to live for God alone, even though she did not yet know what that would look like. She cut her beautiful hair as a sign of her commitment and focused all her energy on her children and her spiritual life. She increased her prayers and her acts of charity, seeking comfort in serving others. This vow was a turning point. It was a declaration that, despite her profound loss, she would not let despair win. She placed her future and the future of her children entirely in God's hands. Her life was now forever changed. The role of a happy wife was replaced by that of a grieving widow. The future she had once imagined was gone, replaced by uncertainty. Yet, through her tears, a new path began to emerge. She continued to manage the estate and care for her children with unwavering love, but her heart was now set on a different course. Her suffering was not an end, but a new beginning. It was a painful but necessary trial that would strip away worldly attachments and prepare her for the incredible mission that God had in store for her, a mission that would touch countless lives and leave a lasting mark on the world. After her husband's death, Jane Frances faced another difficult trial. She and her 4 children had to move in with her father-in-law, the old Baron de Chantal. He was a difficult and demanding man, and his home was managed by a sharp-tongued servant who made life very hard for Jane. For 7 long years, she endured this challenging environment with heroic patience and humility. She was treated poorly and often criticized, but she never responded with anger. Instead, she served her father-in-law and the household with kindness and gentleness. This period of suffering became a school of virtue for her, strengthening her soul and teaching her to rely completely on God's grace for strength and peace. During this time, she longed for spiritual guidance. She prayed fervently that God would send her a holy director to help her navigate her spiritual journey. In 1604, her prayer was answered in a way she could never have imagined. She traveled to Dijon to hear a series of Lenten sermons being preached by the Bishop of Geneva, Francis de Sales. As she listened to him speak, her heart was deeply moved. She recognized him as the director she had seen in a vision. He spoke of God's gentle and immense love, a message that soothed her weary soul. It was a moment of profound recognition, a divine appointment that would set the course for the rest of her life. After the sermon, a meeting was arranged between them. A beautiful and profound spiritual friendship began to grow. St. Francis de Sales saw in Jane a soul of great potential, one capable of reaching the heights of holiness. He became her spiritual director, guiding her through his famous letters. He taught her that holiness was not just for priests and nuns in convents, but for everyone, in every state of life. He helped her to see God's will in her duties as a mother and in the daily trials of living with her father-in-law. His gentle guidance helped her to find peace amidst her struggles and to grow in her love for God. Under his direction, Jane's spiritual life deepened immensely. He tempered her desire for extreme penances, teaching her that the greatest mortification is to patiently bear the difficulties of daily life. He encouraged her to be gentle with herself and with others, and to place all her trust in God's loving providence. For years they corresponded, sharing their hearts and their love for God. This holy friendship was the foundation for their future work together. God had brought these 2 saints together, not just for their own sanctification, but to collaborate on a great work for the Church, a work that would offer a new path to holiness for many women. As Jane's children grew older and her responsibilities lessened, the idea for a new religious community began to form in her heart and in the mind of St. Francis de Sales. They envisioned a congregation for women who might not be able to endure the strict austerities of the older religious orders. They wanted to create a place for widows, like Jane, and for women who were older or in delicate health. Their idea was revolutionary for the time. They planned an order that would not be strictly cloistered, but would allow the sisters to go out into the community to visit and care for the sick and the poor, living out the gospel in a spirit of gentle humility. On Trinity Sunday, June 6, 1610, in Annecy, the Congregation of the Visitation of Holy Mary was born. St. Jane Frances, along with 2 other women, began their new life. The name Visitation was chosen to honor the Blessed Virgin Mary's visit to her cousin Elizabeth. It perfectly captured their mission, to bring the presence of Christ to others through simple acts of love and service. Their rule, written by St. Francis de Sales, was characterized by the virtues he so often preached: humility, gentleness, and patience. It was a path to holiness accessible to many, focusing on interior prayer and practical charity rather than extreme physical penances. The new order grew quickly, attracting many women who were drawn to its unique spirit. While the original plan for an active ministry was eventually changed by church authorities to a more traditional cloistered life, the spirit of the Visitation remained. The sisters were to practice an interior cloister, carrying the love of God in their hearts and offering their prayers and sacrifices for the world. St. Jane Frances served as the superior, guiding her sisters with wisdom and motherly love. She faced many challenges, including the deaths of her son, a daughter, and her dear friend St. Francis de Sales, but she always persevered with unshakable trust in God. St. Jane Frances de Chantal died on December 13, 1641. By the time of her death, the Visitation Order had grown to over 80 houses. Her legacy is one of incredible resilience, profound faith, and gentle love. Canonized in 1767, she is the patron saint of widows, forgotten people, and those who have lost parents. Her life teaches us that holiness is possible in every circumstance, in marriage, motherhood, widowhood, and religious life. Her words continue to inspire us. We must be firm in our resolutions, but gentle in our method of carrying them out. St. Jane Frances shows us that even in our deepest sorrow, God can create something beautiful, and that a heart fully given to Him can change the world forever.